Welcome to the Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by The Apocalypse. Finally, we're all outside playing again. Let's blow out the candles and start the show.
Welcome, everybody, to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by Rivermind. Peace of mind for a piece of your mind. Rivermind, where coverage is available. Welcome, everyone, to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And we're filmmakers. We like to write and make things ourselves and also take that bit of info and watch movies. And for me, doing this show has made such a huge impact on how I create, whether it's writing a short film, a feature script, which I've yet to actually produce, or even just making my own client projects. Everything we're doing has a massive impact on the way I go about my own work. This is study time for me, and it's been really, really useful just to see how things are working or not working. Some of the most informative episodes actually have been the ones where I've walked away saying, why didn't that work? Oh, here's where it is. Well, I don't want to call out anything, but I think about 100 episodes ago, there was one we did that's really stuck in my brain because it's a movie that we both like, but it also is unsatisfying. And I was just like, oh. And knowing and doing that episode finally and kind of discovering why it wasn't satisfying has really informed a lot of my own writing. And that just goes for so much of what we do here. Because anytime you're making a project, so often it feels like you're on your own, and it's just, you need a guiding light. You need something that's going to keep you on the path. And with that in mind, Todd, what are we covering today?
Wow, seamless. So today we are covering The Road. So if you haven't seen this film, please pause this episode and go watch it because we're gonna spoil all the things.
As much as we possibly can. We'll dive a little bit into cinematography. We'll talk about compositions and the first frame, last frame idea, and if there is one here. And we'll definitely want to talk about the story and the writing, being a Cormac McCarthy story. So we'll talk about the structure, morality, terse dialogue, and other such stuff and things and stuff.
And a quick synopsis of the film. In a dangerous post-apocalyptic... I can't talk today.
No.
In a dangerous post-apocalyptic world, an ailing father defends his son as they slowly travel to the sea. It's directed by John Hillcoat. Screenplay by Joe Penhall. Based on the novel by Cormac McCarthy. I'm going to butcher this. Cinematography by Javier Aguirresarobe. Featuring Viggo Mortensen as Papa, Kodi Smit-McPhee as Boy, Charlize Theron as Mother, Michael K. Williams as Thief, and Robert Duvall as Old Man.
Within a year, there were fires on the ridges and deranged chanting. There has been cannibalism. Cannibalism is the great fear. Mostly I worry about food. Always food. Food and the cold and our shoes. Sometimes I tell the boy old stories of courage and justice, difficult as they are to remember. All I know is the child is my warrant, and if he is not the word of God, then God never spoke.
Okay, so I don't know the last time you watched this, but I wonder if it's quite as dark as you remembered it, or if it just kind of haunts you and it's the haunting that makes it feel as dark as it always feels when you think about this movie. Is it as dark as you remembered it?
Yeah.
It's exactly that dark.
What else I'm supposed to say? Yes, it is. I don't know when I watched it last either. Maybe like 10 years. I don't even know. Yeah, probably about 10 years ago. And while it hit me then, it hit me harder now. And for obvious reasons. I mean, the boy is about my son's age now. And I mean, so throughout their whole journey, I'm sitting there thinking, putting myself in Papa's shoes, Viggo Mortensen's shoes, and it's shot in such a way and edited in such a way where I'm completely immersed. I mean, I think that the editing is probably some of the best editing I've ever seen in a film. And I'll say that not because I noticed it, but because I didn't notice it, because I was just engrossed the entire time. There is not a moment where I felt like a shot lingered too long, or cut away too soon, or went to some other angle that it didn't need to go to. We are, when we are from the perspective of someone, like when Papa and Boy are hiding from people, we were not on sticks. We're obviously behind things, and we don't want to be noticed. We don't want that person with the gun to look at the camera, to look at us, because we know we are with Papa and Boy at the time. There's that perspective. There's also the perspective as just like a viewer, a voyeuristic kind of thing. And it feels like we're partially the family at the end that's been following them the whole time. And because we find that they've been watching them and following them, and it feels like, oh, that's what we've been doing this whole time.
Wow.
And obviously the performances, I mean, otherworldly. Like Viggo Mortensen, it's hard to say that this is his best performance, because he's just so good in literally everything he does. Whenever he plays a father figure, he's the GOAT. But Kodi, I mean,
where did that come from?
Yeah, where did that kid come from? I mean, because it's even, we've on this show we've analyzed child actors and stuff, and there are some incredible child actors that we've seen, between
Haley Joel Osment and Dakota Fanning.
Yeah, I mean, really. But this kid, like, this role is even harder because he doesn't say much.
Yeah,
he's got to just be a certain way. He's got to be scared, or he's got to be almost catatonic, like when the thief gets shot in the head, when Papa shoots the thief in the head, and the boy, he cannot move. He's so scared, he cannot move. How do you teach how to act that? I mean, like, so the acting is fantastic. The cinematography is just gorgeous. I mean, the clip I was watching a clip while you were showing that other clip as well, because it was just playing in the background. When they have their cart and they see not the house, but a barn, and they have to go across a field. They have to jump, like, go under a fence and go across a field to this barn. And it's just so, like, I would love to see that on an IMAX film, on an IMAX screen. It's just gigantic and gorgeous, and yet stark, and the color is so desaturated, and it feels like a dying world just from the color, and then it's so beautiful when they get to the sea, and you see the beached boat or boats, I guess, whatever, in the distance. And obviously those are not real, but you're not even thinking about that. It's everything is hazy, and he wishes that it was blue, but it's so gray and stark. And yet in these moments of starkness, before they get to the beach, they find a live beetle, right? Like, oh, there's hope. Like, the beetle is their hope. It's just so well written, and there's terrible things that happen, and terrible things that we imagine happening, but we never see. And that might be part of why I love the movie, because it doesn't beat you over the head with just awful stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
It beats you over the head with you imagining the awful stuff happening. Yes, you see a little bit, when they go down in the cellar and they see all those people, and it's terrible and awful, but what you don't really see much of it. You just hear the yelling later on that evening after they get out of the house, right? Or you see the blood in the bathroom when they run up the stairs and the boy is cowering in the bathroom. It's so well written, and to adapt this to the screen, it is just so good. John Hillcoat, what else has he done?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I couldn't remember either, and I looked him up, and I still forgot.
Okay,
he's done some other good stuff for sure,
yeah.
But yeah.
But this adaptation is fantastic. It's really hard to make a book into a movie and make the movie as good as the book. And granted, I haven't read the book, but I can't imagine the book being exorbitantly better than the movie. Maybe it is. Somebody in the comments tell me I'm wrong and the book is way better. I will fight you. Because I was in tears when Papo died. I mean, it was 12 o'clock at night and I'm sitting in bed and I'm bawling my eyes out. And it's not just because he's dying. It's because I love this boy and I don't know what's going to happen to him now. And because he's been so dependent on his dad, and his dad has tried to instill really hard things into him, but now he's got to let him go. But he's still just a boy. It's not like, oh, your dad died, now you're a grown up. No, that's not how that works. There is a transition period here, and I want this boy to live and survive, and I don't know what's going to happen. And so I'm crying for the boy, and I'm crying for Papa because he doesn't want to go. And it's unbelievably well done. I'm emotionally attached to these characters in such a great way. And then also Nick Cave did the score. Was one of this. I don't know if he was the only score, but he was one who did the score, but he was a main force of the score, and it's fantastic. It's so perfect. There are moments where there's silence on purpose, and then there's moments where there's just a little bit, and the way that these sounds are layered. I think it was in the scene where they find the beetle. I'm pretty sure that was the scene where I noticed there's piano going, and there's a cello, but also there's an oboe, and it's just so beautiful. It's this one moment where I notice an oboe, and maybe it's other places in the film and I just didn't notice it. But there's this one moment where they're walking in it looks like a festival or something, like where there's or what was a festival, right? But it's all dilapidated now, or maybe there's just houses, and so it feels a little bit safe, and so there's this kind of like new sound, and it's just so perfectly done. It's a hard film to watch, but if you want to learn how to immerse your viewer and to make them love character, this is a masterclass of that. It's just fantastic. And I've been really worried about watching this movie because I didn't want to screw it up. Like I didn't want to, I wanted to still love it. Yeah. And I definitely still do. It's fantastic. What about for you?
Yeah. So there was a gap between, like, last year I watched it because I read the book. And so I'll talk about that experience in a minute, but there was a gap between a little bit before that. I think I rewatched it, but I think there was probably like this movie came out and it came out on DVD and I bought it. And I probably bought it around, 2014 or so. Right. And then watched it and then didn't touch it again for, 10 years and then, watched it again in fear of, like, in my memory, all these horrible things happened. And it's exactly as you said, it's all in your head. And I think that's the anticipation. I kept waiting to see these things I never saw because I painted all these pictures in my head. And that's what I was trying to get at earlier. It was like, is it really as bad as you remembered it, or is it just the memory was so awful?
I see.
See, yeah. And the memory was worse than the reality, even though the reality is very dark. This isn't a happy-go-lucky movie by any stretch of the imagination. But revisiting it, now that I'm a little bit more, as long as I don't let more than a year or two go by, I think I'll be okay if I watch it. But if I let too much time go by, I'm going to start seeing demons where there are none. And same, man. I love this movie. The characters are so strangely rich, even though there are no names, right? No one has a name. It's just father and son and wife, mother, a thief, an old man. Like, you just don't know. And yet, they don't need names. That's how strongly they come across. And I completely agree. Like, Viggo Mortensen is always just so compelling on screen. But Kodi Smit-McPhee is just, the amount of lifting he's doing in this movie is astronomical, because everything you said is right. And then on top of that, all the stuff that he's not saying has to be communicated to the viewer, that he's feeling a weight himself and that he is seeing stuff and he is naive. And yet you need to feel all the feelings that he's raising all these questions with his dad about good and bad, and if we're the good guys, but all this stuff is weighing on him, and you feel it weighing on him. And so when you get to the end of the movie, all that has to be built up in us, so that when he finally explodes at his dad about, I am the one who has to worry. He doesn't have to say anything else. He doesn't have to go on, a 60-second monologue about everything he's seeing and thinking and feeling, because it's always been written on his face the entire movie. And that writing on the face is it's impossible. And it's one of those things where maybe the directing is just that good. And maybe it really is. Like, maybe he is just picking out the moments, and maybe he is off camera coaching, Kodi, like, do this and think about this and feel this. And he's just picking all these moments out. And if you roll for 10 minutes, you'll catch some really interesting stuff, especially once he's settled in and isn't afraid of the camera anymore. Or maybe Kodi Smit-McPhee's been doing theater for the last, 5 years of his life. And so he's got this natural comfort of existing in front of people. But all these things probably combined to just be this transformative thing. And it just overwhelms you, because you feel what he's feeling the whole way through, and it's just unreal. And then you throw in alongside that all these flashbacks of Charlize Theron, who is just the same. Like, all three of those actors, let's not sugarcoat it. Every actor who appears in front of the camera is transcendent. Yeah. We didn't list them, but Garrett Dillahunt is just one of my absolute favorite actors. And he is always just, I'm waiting for him to have his Walton Goggins moment, because Walton Goggins was kind of this character actor who floated around and was just knocking you on your ass every time he got in front of the lens, and you didn't know his name until the last, couple years. And Garrett Dillahunt is the same. He is this guy, when you see him, you don't maybe remember his face, but he made an impact on the story, and you felt his impact. And he's playing this guy towards the beginning, that gang member who gets shot in the head. And he is just so powerful. Everyone, Michael K. Williams, if your heart doesn't break as you walk away from Michael K. Williams, check your pulse. It's brutal. Same thing with it's Robert Duvall. So what more can you say? But everyone, and Charlize Theron is just heartbreaking, the way that she's able to carry all these emotions on her face without saying a word. By the time she has to walk away into the darkness, why she has to do it. And it's not because there isn't any love in her heart. It's because there's too much to exist in this world. Oh, And so it's so good. Everyone plays their role so well that they don't need names. Everyone is just so powerful. And that just makes this movie so much more heartbreaking. Can you imagine picking the wrong actors in this movie and then expecting the audience to go with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You couldn't do it.
Unreal.
Yeah.
No, you couldn't. And there's always this like, there's always this this pressure of, they have 2 bullets, right? And then I guess they have 1 left right after he shoots the guy in the head. They have like 1 bullet, and him teaching his kid how to shoot himself because, it's better than the alternative. And then when they're in the bathroom and he's about to do it and he just, and I know he doesn't, I've seen the movie, but I don't know in the moment. And because I'm watching Viggo Mortensen and I'm there with them. I am there with him. And I feel the pressure that he's feeling as a father to take care of his son in the only way that he possibly could. And the idea of having to do that it's prevalent throughout the entire film. And they never let you forget it. Maybe for that moment when they find the bunker, they let you forget it a little bit.
Yeah.
But even then, it feels a little like close the hatch. Like, come on, like what's going on? So it's stressful the whole time.
Yeah, and that moment you're talking about when he's in the bathroom, he's got the gun to his head. There's so much there. There's so much there from a writing, from a performance standpoint, but from the writing aspect, it works every time you watch it. It doesn't matter how many times, but like you said, you don't know in that moment if he's going to do it or not. And that's because they wrote them into such an impossible situation. Like, you don't see how he can possibly get away. How can he possibly get out? He's upstairs, locked himself in a bathroom, and the doorway's blocked. Like, they're got a house full of people, murderers, cannibals. We've already seen what they're capable of, and you're just worried they're going to get stuffed in that basement, in that cellar. And so you have the situation that just says there's no way out, which is everything you want as a writer. That's how you want to corner your audience. Like, what happens now? And then and now there's only 1 bullet left. He's had to use 1. And so they're down to 1. And the building of that moment, whenever he puts the gun to his kid's head and you see the stress on the child's face of, will I see you again? He's asking these really innocent questions. In your heart that Papa's he's got it in him to do it.
Yeah. And
not because he wants to, but because what he doesn't want to happen is so much worse.
Yeah.
And so as an audience, you're empathizing with him and you're horrified at the choices being forced on him. And it's just perfect. And then he hears downstairs something shifted and he's like, oh, there could be a way. I got to take this chance. And in my mind, I'm thinking if it doesn't work, he can still kill the kid. And now it's just him. Now only he is the one who has to suffer cannibalism. Like, it's horrible, but you understand the thought process and the hope, the glimmer,
And there are just a few moments in films where, like, you need to deliver a line that's basically the defining thing of the film. Interstellar, because my dad told me, right? This one was that line you just said, and even you just saying it right then, I like almost brought me to tears. Will I see you again? He loves his dad. He knows what his dad's going to do. He's accepted it, but it's not that he's afraid to die. It's that he's afraid to not see his dad again. Yeah. All he wants is to be with his dad. Right. And so that line right there says so much. And you're right. Like, writing your characters into an impossible way to get out of. And then, and in a terrible place. I mean, they're surrounded by blood everywhere, in the bathroom. They know what's downstairs. And then the thing that gets them out is the thing that they were that we didn't want them to do in the first place. Like, I did not want him to go down into that basement. I knew it was down there, right? But thank God he did, because if he didn't, you know, that's what got them out. What great writing.
Yeah.
You know? And it's edited in such a way where it feels real. It feels like that could probably happen. I mean, there was a guy chasing him down there. You know, he broke the latch, so he didn't lock it again, obviously. Pull the table over it so that things will fall off the table and it will, you know, make noise. All of these things had to happen, and they had to be done the right way. And it was perfect.
It's perfect. And I think it's also just a great use of music to help them escape, right?
Oh, yeah.
It helps us not overly emphasize the racket that they're making, right? Because the music is kind of covering all the running down the stairs, not the window, all that stuff. But if you don't have that, you start overly like analyzing the moment, when in reality, all those people are distracted with not losing their meal. Like, and so without the music, you should still buy it, but with the music, it never leaves a question of whether or not you buy it. And that's such a great use of loud, chaotic music. It's beautiful. I'll run through a few notes here. Like, first off, the structure of this film is so good. I read the book last year, and I got to say, I wouldn't call it a shot for shot, but it's pretty, from what I remember of reading the book and then immediately watching the film, I was like stunned how closely this follows the book. Now, certainly not perfect. I think there's a few moments that are more tightly wound in the book than in the film, but not many. From what I remember, I think when they get into the bunker, maybe they get sick from eating or something like that. But by and large, you're not going to get much more out of the book as far as story goes. What you will get out of the book, and why, if someone were to say the book is better, it's purely because Cormac McCarthy is a genius, as a master craftsman on the level of prose. Like, his prose are gorgeous and some of the best I've ever read in my life. But my problem is I'm not a prose guy. I don't read books for the prose. I read them for the story. And for me, it was really hard to get through the book because I kept trying to pull out the story. And it really is, you're just there to be and exist in this world with the characters. And it's gorgeous. It really is gorgeous. If you are someone who really appreciates a well-crafted paragraph or sentence, my God. There's no dialogue in the book. It's just the father says to the son that blah, 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 blah. Like, there's no quotes. You just pick up the dialogue in the prose itself. So it's structured in a very odd way, unusual. Like, it's something that, I'm forgetting her name. Sally Rooney kind of picked up that same torch. And if you read her work, she writes in a very similar way. For me, I like Sally Rooney much more, but that's just because she's much more digestible. Cormac McCarthy, I quit Blood Meridian for other reasons, but it was tough to parse, but genius at the same time. Anyway, so the structure of the movie really closely resembles the structure of the book itself. And I think that pays so many dividends because the first people we meet are like awful, right? They're cannibals. And we meet them a few times and all kinds of terrible things. And it just sets the tension right up front with everyone we meet afterwards. You don't know, are they good or bad? And so you can't first start out meeting nice people, because then you don't really appreciate the danger that the world represents. You really need to start with some awful, awful stuff so that you understand there's a reason the father's acting the way he's acting, and it's because he's aware and he's been fighting this whole time out of sight with the mother, and she gave up. I mean, that was her whole fear was they're going to get us, we're going to get eaten and devoured, and that's going to be that. And so they structure it in such a way that it really helps you appreciate this world and everything that it has to offer, so to speak. And so we meet cannibals. We go into the barn with the suicide hangings, which is amazing because I love the compositional choices in this barn, cinematography wise, right? they reveal those dead bodies, and it's heavily cropped. Like, we don't just see the whole dead body. We just kind of see the feet dangling, and the boy is on the edge of the frame. It's a very dirty frame. It's not a beautiful composition per se, but it's making a very interesting statement about how the father and son are floating through this world, because it wasn't the first thing we noticed. The first thing we're looking for is there anything usable, anything we can take with us? And then the boy just kind of ambles up to something before we cut to this composition of legs, and we're like, oh crap. And he is not shocked at all. He is just like kind of dispassionately watching this. And I love it, because I think one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of new filmmakers make is trying to capture everything in the frame. Like, they don't know they want to make sure the audience can see this whole thing. And you don't really have to do that. What is often more interesting, not always, but often, is going a little tighter, and now you have to explore the scene more with camera movement. You just move around and explore, and now you're giving the audience something to process and digest, and you're painting a picture more. And that's often, and when we leave the scene, it's on the exit that we finally get a wide of them hanging in the barn. And so as a new filmmaker, it's so much harder and more masterful to craft a really good wide shot. Those are hard, man. And if you don't have that talent yet, go close. Now that's much easier to keep an interesting frame, engage the viewer, and help tell your story in a way that's building momentum and within the frame. And so, and here, to me, by leaving on a wide, it's very telling that we don't start that way. They entered the room and virtually ignored the dead bodies. They're creating a picture of who these people are, just through the choice and through the editing of when we're using certain angles and when we're not. It goes back to what you were talking about. The editing is absolutely masterful, no question. Yeah,
and I love to add to all of that. Just talking about filmmaking and everything. There are rules and stuff, but I don't think that this film cares about those rules. I think that it, the loaded gun rule, right? We do see the gun go off. He loads it. We see it go off one time, but it's loaded multiple times. Yeah. And we see them play with it multiple times, and we never see it go off again. It goes off that one time. It's threatened a lot, but it's never used. Does that go against the rule? I don't know, because we saw it go off at least once.
That's such a good point. I didn't really make any notes about it, but once you pointed it out, I think it's such a smart writing tool, because it always is going to go back to the context of the world you're building. And for that gun to not go off is to create a constant tension, which is the world that they live in. They live in constant fear and tension of having to use this weapon on themselves, on someone else. And it's a beautiful thing to keep loaded, because this gun, metaphorically, is never going to get exhausted. That tension never goes away in this world. And so it's a great device to have in play the whole time. Yeah, great observation.
What did you think? What did you think at the end? So Papa dies, and boy is standing on the beach, and he's looking out in the water, and then a guy is walking towards him. I know you know how it ends, but even knowing how it ends, how did you feel while he was walking up to him?
I did make a note on, actually. And so I love everything about this little moment, this shot, really. It's one shot that is going to get your hackles up, which is this lovely, beautiful crane move down along the beach that shows at first in the opening of the angle of this shot, of this edit, is just the guy walking up. And he's walking a little too fast and a little too confident. He's got too much swagger. There's clearly a gun on his shoulder. And I love it so much. We boom down on the crane. We crane down and pull the kid into the frame. And we just keep going until they're on the same level. This guy is making a beeline for our near defenseless little kid. I mean, let's face it. it doesn't matter if he has a bazooka in his hands, he's defenseless, because in his heart, he doesn't have violence. And so this guy walking up is the second thing I love. First, that camera move is super dramatic. It's communicating drama to the audience of, you don't know what the hell is about to happen. So point one is great dramatic movement. But then I also love that he just walks straight up on him and that he doesn't put his hands up. He doesn't reveal that he's not a threat at all. And so we know this is a big movement, but we don't know if he's good. And I love that they keep us in suspense. And I could watch that scene 20 times in a row in isolation. And every time it's going to frustrate me and I'm going to get afraid because of his body language. He never shows himself to be innocent. He doesn't know how to exist in this world otherwise. That's who people are now. So that's what I pulled out of that. What did you pull out?
Just that. I was like, shoot this MFer. Like, just shoot, like, you know? But you're completely right. He doesn't have violence in his heart. And the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm seeing Simon. I'm seeing my son, because it is so my son to think good of everyone all the time. And so in a world like this, I worry for this kid. And you know, another thing about the film that I was thinking, I was like, okay, the mother, you know, not being able to take it, you know, like, you know, at first I was thinking, what, really? And this kid, you know, after years or a couple of years, however long, being in part of this world, or many years, his whole life being part of this world, you know, not being hardened, like, But this is a story about certain characters with certain traits, right? Every film is, or every story is, certain characters with certain traits. It's not, you know, a kid should be hardened at living his whole life in a post-apocalyptic world. That's not what this story is. Some kids don't have violence in their heart. He doesn't. It's not every mother would fight to stay with their kid. That's not the story here. The story is this mother could not do it. She could not be in this world. And this is the repercussions of the way that these characters are responding to this world. Papa responding by being, you know, the protector and doing everything he can. Like, this is the result of their response to it. And I think that a lot of times, if you watch films, you might, you know, think of a character and think, why would they do that? Or why would they do? It's just a scenario it's just a characteristic that they have.
Yeah. And so structurally, like, they're doing so much in this film to keep you on the edge of your seat and keep pushing you over the edge, really. I mean, you get in the one shining light of this film, of course, is when they discover the bunker, right? And by this point, they deserve a win, and we deserve a win, right? We are starving just as much as they are for something good, right? The world has died. They've escaped cannibals twice. They've seen so much death. They've lost, you know, the mother. And we're just like, does anything good ever happen? And so for them to find this trove of like some doomsday prepper who didn't get to use their own stuff, is just like earned. And you have to earn that kind of moment in this kind of film. You can't just like a video game, have them every 10 yards running across, you know, rations. It's just not right. And so the interesting thing, the question that, you know, the film kind of asks is, did they stay too long? And this is funny to me because once you understand the entirety of the story, right? They hear people above them. The boy hears a dog. And this is the same family that saves the kid at the end, which is kind of a bitter irony. Like, the reason they left that safety was because his family kept stalking them. And ultimately it gets them, you know, the father killed maybe, or maybe he was always on his deathbed, right? He's He seems to have some kind of cancer, probably from his smoking. And I love how they just subtly paint. He smokes like one cigarette in the entire film and dies of cancer. But whatever. And so I don't know. I think that's interesting. But the bigger question that I really feel like this movie is asking or is presenting is about morality in a fallen world. Because towards the beginning of the film, the son asks him, "Are we still the good guys?" And the father's like, "Yeah, of course. What do you mean?" And he's like, "And we always will be, no matter what happens." That's a really important question to be asking. Does it matter what happens to us? Will we forsake our morality if bad things happen? What's our line in the sand for being good people, and how can we tell? And it's such a good dramatic question. Can they hold on to their morality in a fallen world? Because that opening monologue paints a really brutal picture, right? He talks about the nuclear holocaust is what is happening, right? He describes a long, sheer, bright light and then a series of low concussions. It just sounds like nuclear rain. He just pelting everywhere. And each day is more gray than the one before, nuclear fallout, as the world dies, right? There are no crops, no animals survived. And then the brutal part, within a year, fires on the ridges and deranged chanting. There has been cannibalism. Cannibalism is the great fear. And then he goes on to finally say, "The child is my warrant. And if he is not the word of God, then God never spoke." And so he's putting a lot of his hopes and dreams on his kid, which is, I think, parenting writ large. And the reason I think you can see this movie in so many different lights. There might be one correct light for Cormac McCarthy, but whenever you present art, like, everyone's watching this with a different lens, because I think some of us can watch this and just say, this is what it feels like to raise a child now in today's world. It feels like a lost world. It feels like there's nothing left that's good, and the only thing good is my child, and I'm trying my best to protect them from the savages and the ravaging of this world. Like, there's that mentality that I think persists. And so there's this metaphor that you could take away from it. Or more explicitly, like, what would it feel like if you keep treating the world the way we're treating it, and we do experience nuclear, war? What do you think is left? This is just presenting a world that we've abandoned through our reckless, use of whatever it is, foreign policy, or how we elect our leaders, or what we ask and demand of our leaders. Like, what do you expect to happen? What world do you think will be left if you continue down this path? Because this is let's just paint a picture. What happens afterwards? This is it. Are you happy now? Well, if you're not, change what you're doing currently, or else this is what you get. And so you could paint that picture. But within this universe, I love that he's calling his child the word of God, right? He's calling it. And then you run into the old man. He calls the child an angel. So the child is being called an angel, the word of God. And in this universe is the only one advocating for kindness and hope. He even challenges his dad, that his dad can't tell the difference between good and bad anymore. And yet, you might say all of that, but when the dad swims to the boat and the kid is supposed to keep watch, he falls straight to sleep and they get robbed blind. So how much is all that good and kindness in this world if you can't protect your own life? Good question. I don't know. But I think it's interesting. To me, I'm watching this movie, and the big grand question is, if the only good that exists in this world is the good that you create, would you still create it? If everything else is evil and everything else is vile except you, and now you have a decision to participate or to stand alone and be your own light, would you be that? Or would you give in? I know everyone listening, and you and I included, would say that we would still choose to be the light. And I think we can look out and universally say that we know that that's not true. Not everyone will be that light. And so we need to be asking ourselves these questions about what it means to be light. in a fallen world, because there's nuclear holocaust and what happens after, and then there's this, the reality of and portraying ourselves as the ones being light bearers, and it's a
the
fascinating.
boy is the light. The boy is the light bearer.
He is.
He is. And even when Papa's light goes out, I don't mean when he dies.
Mm-hmm.
When he took all the clothes from that guy, his light went out, and the boy reignited it. Fought his dad, give him his clothes back. And yes, they never got the clothes back to him, but they left it there anyway with food. Like,
yeah.
I can't. And so you watch this movie and you look at this boy and you think he's so weak. He's so weak. He can't defend himself. Like when his dad hands him the gun, he just kind of holds it out in both hands. He doesn't like hold it like you would hold a gun. He's just holding it flat. He doesn't want it. Like he doesn't want any part of the negativity and death of this world. He can't be a part of it. And yet at the end, he is the strong one because of it. Like that's what I get out of this movie is that, like, yes, there are all of these other things, but just, Papa was lucky, not the boy. Papa was lucky that he had the boy to save him from losing his own light,
Absolutely. And my hope is that watching this creates some level of introspection, because we're all identifying with them. They don't have names. We're filling in our own names. Like, what would I do? How would I act? And we all feel disappointed in the father when he walks away with that man's clothes and leaving him like that. We know that guy wasn't an actual killer. He didn't kill the kid. He didn't even take the gun.
Yeah.
So we need to be asking ourselves all these questions about, we want to feel holier than thou because we feel heartbroken when he walks away, but we need to understand what of that exists within us right now. And so that's so wonderful. Anyway, I'll get to my last note is about the dialogue. There's such beautiful, terse dialogue, and understanding your universe that you're writing in helps write tonally accurate dialogue. There's times when you want one word instead of 10, but there are times when you want 20 words instead of one, when one will do. It just depends on the story that you're telling. If you're telling a highly philosophical story, you're going to want those 20 words to help flesh out your philosophy. But when it's so cut and dry as this world is, man, 2 words is all you need, because everything is already so stark and the compelling things you're doing is already so strong. And so some of my favorite examples in this, the gang member is saying, I don't think you've killed anybody in your life, and he's right, because we reveal flashback, a year earlier, he still only has 2 bullets. And so the gang member, tries to scare him a little bit. They'll hear the shot, and the reply is so wonderful. Maybe, but you won't. Like, that's so good. I mean, he goes on to elaborate, but he really didn't need to. Like, that's one of those moments where he could have just left it at that. And so, but that's a hard ass line, and it's beautiful. But there's so much here that's so pointed, right? I wish I was with my mom. And the dad is like, you mean you wish you were dead? Yeah. And he's so flippant about it. He's like, yeah. And I love how his tone is always high pitched. It never feels bassy. It never feels big and earthy. It's always like light. He's a very light-hearted kid, and he's always living in the clouds. Like, just the pitch of his voice is communicating something so wonderful. And by giving him some of these good, strong, short sentences, it gives him so much more to swing. And it's so ironic in that way. Like, man, you can swing one word way more than you can swing 20. And it just depends on what you're going after. And the tone of your universe will help dictate what kind of dialogue you need for it. Yeah, that's all I got.
Great point, man. Wow.
So, okay. I think we're out of time. So what are you going to recommend this week?
Oh, so I recently rewatched this film, and it's been a long time since I've seen it, but it's great movie. I'm going to recommend American Sniper. Really, I mean, I love I love warfare movies, not because of all the terrible things that happen, but just because it puts into perspective, the good ones put into perspective the horrific nature of war, whether that's intrinsic on an individual participating in it or just in general. And I think that this does a really great job doing that in intrinsic way. Bradley Cooper is fantastic in it. He pretty much disappears. Just a great job in his acting there. So yeah, American Sniper. Nice.
Well done. I'm going to recommend the book, Cormac McCarthy, The Road. Like,
great.
If you haven't read it before, I'm not going to call it an easy read, but it's one that you can just read. I don't remember if there's chapters or not, but you could read a couple pages at a time and just really soak in the prose and the writing. Like it's just an incredible read on that level. And I'm so glad I read it and got to experience him. I'm probably not going to read any of his other books. Maybe eventually I'll come back to it. But yeah, that's all I got. And so stay tuned for next week. We need something lighter. And so we're going to go and visit a nice fantasy film, Stardust. So stay tuned for that. And if you're enjoying the show, subscribe, drop us a review, leave us a note. It's something you want us to cover. If you want to talk about this episode in particular, you can leave a comment at thepestlepodcast.com/theroad.
And our quote of the day today is from James 1:17. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly heights, of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the film, he makes a comment that the power went out at 1:17.
Oh, man.
And so I was like, is there any big verses?
Are you kidding me?
And so
wow.
I was like, why not? Maybe he's talking about James 1:17, because it feels like, this whole movie is about the one good, perfect thing came from somewhere else, right? It came from him and his wife, and this child, and that God, and if you reflect about religion and God, like according to the Bible, apparently, the Father of the heavenly lights does not change like shifting shadows. He is good and he's only good. I have all kinds of differing opinions about that, but I think that's the arguing statement of this movie. Like, God doesn't change. He doesn't shift. He's not shadowy. He's not evil. He doesn't cannibalize one another and use each other for parts. And it's fighting. This guy is fighting for his salvation, for his inner light. And this kid is being this beacon, and I love your comment about you get to the end of the film and he gives it back to him. He's losing it. He lost it. But if you keep a little bit on you, you can find it again. Yeah.
I can't believe you found this. So his genius to even look. Wow. Great call there, man. Amazing. I love this film. I gotta wait a while to watch it again. But it's so good. It is what movies are made for. It's so good. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Please share us with your friends, subscribe, review us wherever you get your podcasts. It all helps a lot. And if there's a film you'd like to see us pick apart or talk about, please share it. Who knows? Maybe one day we will cover it. Until next week, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch some movies. The last thing I'll say, and we can cut, is the speed at which he shoots that guy is fucking flawless.
He just decides. Boom.
He's gonna kill. I gotta do it right now. Boom. It's because when he grabbed him and he had the knife to it, I was like, oh my god. I knew he didn't kill him, but I was like, oh my god. And then he didn't fucking hesitate. He just did it. Because worst case scenario, he hits his son.
True.
And, success.
Dead anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.